Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 12, the big 1-2 of the Vitality Chalk Talk podcast. I'm your host with the mostest, Nate Lambert. I've got Kyle Bernier to my right, and directly across from me, Mr. Aruba, Nate Agnew. You actually really like that shirt, don't you?
It's comfortable, yeah. It's a sun shirt. Really quick, I just want to say this. I got a haircut this morning, and
What time was your haircut?
they opened at 9. I got there at 9. And I'm sitting there.
They hate you so much. They're like, God, this guy's 9 a.m. and this guy's here to get a haircut.
I don't care. I don't have any other time. But I'm sitting there, I'm like 2 minutes in the haircut, and the fire alarm goes off.
In the shop?
Yes.
Oh.
Like, loud. Like, you know when
they're loud.
You're in school.
They're
and
loud.
Yeah.
They're loud.
Yeah.
It's all get out. It went on for 10 minutes.
Were you still sitting getting your haircut?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's
Yeah.
awful.
She was still working on you?
Yeah.
That's
And I mean, it
bad,
got to
dude.
a point where it's like you just learn to live in that environment. You know? But it did not stop. And they were like, "I'm sorry. They told us they were going to test this today. We forgot. I totally forgot to tell you. They came in here 10 minutes ago and told us they were going to test it." And you think you would test it for like 20 seconds?
Uh-huh.
No kidding. I timed it.
10 minutes.
I was
don't understand
so
why.
close to getting my
It's not
phone
good.
out and like putting a story up of her cutting my hair
You
with
should've
this
done it.
alarm.
You should
That'd
have
be cool.
done that.
It was so freaking.
Did they give you a discount or anything?
No, but she was like
Customer experience is pretty trashy.
Yeah.
She was apologetic, and she did give me $2 off coupons for my next haircut.
$2 off coupon.
Yeah.
So $4 off?
Yeah.
What's the total haircut price?
I
14?
usually, I thought
14.
it was more than that. But
If
I
we're
got
going to
it
talk
for
great clips on the
14.
podcast, they just need to go ahead and cut the check. Great clips just need to go ahead and cut that check.
But I was just like, man, this is actually
$14.
absurdly annoying.
Yeah, the customer
Very,
experience.
very, very loud.
Customer experience is not that good. I was thinking about you guys this morning. I was making breakfast, and I cooked some ribeyes the other night, and I undercooked the mess out of them, like just rare as rare can get. Like not bleeding, but you know whenever you cut open a good steak and it's that deep like ruby red color, and all you have is that nice little brown smoke ring around the side of it. Nate doesn't know anything about that because he's never grilled meat in his life.
Not steaks.
Not steak.
I don't really like steak.
You're a chicken guy.
Yeah. I every time I've eaten a steak, unless it's from Ruth Chris.
Okay. All right, high roller over here.
seriously.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, they do it right.
Have you ever been to Ruth's Chris?
It's just,
Dude, who are you?
It's the only place I get my steak.
I just said it's the only good one I've had. Any other steak, it takes me 5 minutes to chew each bite, and I hate that.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, you haven't had good experience
that.
then.
Yeah.
I've had terrible experience.
But have you ever gotten salmonella? Because I know you've eaten a lot of chicken in your day.
No. Never.
How do you get salmonella? I don't know how that
It
works.
comes from eating raw chicken, for sure. I mean,
Okay.
I'm sure there's other things too. But
He said for sure.
But it's raw chicken, I think, and maybe raw pork are probably the two biggest reasons.
That is funny that you say that because Johnny's, wow, that's crazy. Johnny's wife's
Yep, Johnny's
sister, Maisie.
Maisie.
What's her name? Maisie?
Maisie, yeah.
Okay.
Spelled M-A-I,
Zey.
like corn.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
The amazing Maisie.
They're pretty southern. It's a pretty southern name.
Yeah, got it.
Savannah and Maisie. But so one time she was there. Maisie was at Johnny. Maisie goes to App, and Johnny lives in Asheville, so it's not too far of a drive. So she'll go up there every once in a while. And she was at Johnny's, and they had put chicken in the crock pot. And Maisie they were eating it for dinner. They'd had it in the crock pot all day, so it was cooked and ate for dinner. And Maisie was like, "Jonathan, this chicken is amazing." And she was like, "What do you do?" And he was like, "Just put it in the crock pot, a couple seasoning, whatever." And she was like, "I do this same thing almost every week, and it's nothing close to this good."
Huh.
And they were like, "Well, what do you do?" And he was like, "Just walk me through the steps." She had put it in the crock pot, like in the mornings, went to class all day, came back, and had just put the crock pot on warm.
She never actually cooked it.
And was eating the chicken for months. Was just putting it on warm.
Just
It
imagine-
wasn't even close
Just
to
imagine how pink the inside of that chicken
It
had
was
to
just
be.
like, it probably had like the brown on the outside.
ring.
She's like, all right, good to go.
Put it on
Not
warm.
even close to being cooked.
On warm.
Wow.
And Johnny was like, Johnny was like, Maisie, you are an idiot. You've been eating this chicken for how long?
She's probably hosting enough bacteria to wipe out the human race
Not
inside
even-
her
She's
stomach.
lucky,
Not
man.
even close to being cooked.
Holy
I always thought
smokes.
that I knew it had to do something with raw chicken, but I remember one occasion when I was in elementary school, we had a ChickfilA would deliver lunch to where me and Agnew went to elementary school, and like somebody had like chicken nuggets in their like cubby from like a couple of days ago that were just camping out in their thing.
No.
And I saw them and I was like, is anybody gonna eat these? And they're like, no. And I went to go take a bite of them. Somebody was like, you're gonna get salmonella, and I was like, you can't get salmonella from cooked chicken, but I feel like if it's been sitting out, I feel like
You might not have got salmonella exactly, but you probably would have got something just because it's old.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be salmonella. I don't know.
Hey, so talk about why you're not microwaving your food anymore.
Oh,
We talked about this history.
yeah.
Weird boy.
I said, why don't you microwave it? I eat everything cold now.
I eat it.
I said, there's no fun in that. He's like, no, it's not fun at all. I was like, oh, okay.
It's not. It's terrible.
And this, I just want to say, just in front of the podcast and you guys, I respect the hell out of Kyle for being like, you know what, I would rather protect my well-being than eat warm food. Like that's a big step for me.
Man, I gave it up. Warm food. I haven't had a hot meal now. just kidding.
That's
I've had plenty of hot meals, but I eat a lot of them cold, especially when I'm here. But I listened to a podcast by a guy by the name Paul Check.
We're on a podcast talking about podcasts.
The irony. I hope that this influences somebody and helps them.
Go listen to Paul Check. There you go.
But Paul Check, and I don't know a ton about him, but he's extremely intelligent.
He's a wizard.
Apparently he knows, or he started something called the Check Institute that has to do with nutrition.
Performance stuff too.
Some performance stuff. He works with athletes. He has his own special diet out, but the diet isn't so it's like, hey, lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks or whatever. It's more or less, let's figure out what allergies you have to certain foods that are causing inflammation in the body so we can get you healthy.
Yeah.
So it's really cool, but he was saying a lot of convincing stuff about the food industry in general and how it's falling apart. How all the food that are in supermarkets, if it's not legitimately organic, and even some of the organic stuff isn't truly organic.
Yeah. Labels and
the food that is in there doesn't exactly have any nutritional value for us, or if it does, it's very limited compared to what it could be if you were growing your own stuff or getting it from a farmer's market, so to speak. And then he was talking about microwaves and how we're eating all this stuff out of microwaves. And how it's degrading the nutritional value of our food.
Yeah.
And by the time, say, for instance, oatmeal, by the time oatmeal actually gets to us after it's been processed, sprayed with pesticides, washed down, resprayed, washed down, resprayed. By the time it gets to us and then we microwave it and eat it, there's not really much value in that. So
That's not taking away the macronutrients, is it?
And I don't know, so to speak. That's a good question. I don't know that he said
Because
anything.
I'd be the first to say, like, oatmeal, for example, I wouldn't say I'd eat oatmeal for a nutritional value. I'd eat oatmeal for the macronutrients.
Yeah, and that's the same thing for me right now, especially trying to get a lot of carbs, and I eat it for the macro nutrients. So that's a very good question.
That is neat.
But in my mind, the way that I looked at it was, is it worth eating 1 or 2 meals a day that are cold to take away that extra little bit that could potentially be leading to a lot of illnesses in people because we're microwaving everything we eat.
Yeah.
It's like eating cold food, to me, honestly, is not that big of a deal. I eat it in 10 minutes and I go train or do whatever, so it's not really that big of a deal.
This makes me think, because in our microwave up here at the gym, we have I don't even know what it's called. It's like a steamer thing. It's like a plastic
cover.
little- It's a
Cover,
plastic steamy cover thing.
And it's got magnets
It has
in it.
magnets on it. And a couple of weeks, like this was almost a month ago. Like every time Kyle would microwave anything, he would take that thing out and lay it under the thing.
It says it's BPA free, and it says you're microwaving magnets, and you're telling me that's
And your
good?
food's in there with it.
No, it can't be.
I don't
Kyle's just
understand the process of, like, whatever radioactive.
just radiate.
No, they're called microwaves
Yeah.
because they send out
Microwaves.
waves that are microwaves,
Yeah.
and I don't know, it's something to do with like
Microwaves.
remember learning that in school with the S waves, always something like that, right?
Yeah, I want to hear you keep talking about this. You got it. You got it.
I'm not
Just
the
keep talking
smartest,
about it. You got it.
but I know there's.
But it's radio. They're
radioactive,
small radio waves that are going into your food to energize the cells and the molecules in your food.
And that's what warms it up.
And that's what warms it up. But also it puts it in a very unstable condition because they're not used to something externally coming in, especially artificially or mechanically generated waves to re-energize their cells, and so then stuff gets changed inside the food, and so it's different when it comes out.
When it gets warmer, would you consider, this is half joke, half serious, would you consider, like in the summertime, like in July, putting your food on a plate, setting it outside in 95-degree weather, train, and then by the time you get done training and ready to eat?
I can see him doing that.
I mean, that's happened to me before, where I've had food with me, and let's say I left it, I didn't put it in the fridge, and it got warm, but by the time I ate it, it was warm. I was like, all right, whatever.
Okay.
It was fine.
Here's a funny story. I realized that Jenna's Uncle Mincy, every day, well, not anymore, but in the summer, he brings like leftovers, like whatever they have for dinner, that's what he eats for lunch the next day, and he leaves it on his dashboard. And then when he's ready to eat lunch, he comes out.
That's a baller.
It's a baller. It's 95
I think
degrees.
it's great, man. I think it comes down to being a little bit radical about some of this stuff, because the reality is it's some really unhealthy stuff that's going on within the food industry, the cooking industry, if you want to put it like that. And then we're consuming it, and we're wondering why there's so many illnesses going on in the world at such a young age with younger, teenagers, young adults. We're like, man, how did they get this?
Do you think it took this long as in present day compared to the 80s? Do you think it took this long to realize those are issues because of scientific developments, or?
No, I personally, and this is me speaking because I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, you are. I think we've known about the issues, and I think people who have been supplying these things have known about the issues, but because money is king, it has just ruled what we've spoken about or what has been revealed to us. But now we have people like Paul Chek who are whistleblowers, know this information, and they're revealing it, and they're trying to make a change. But there's just enough people out there who want to keep him hushed that it's hard to find. You have to seek that information.
It's tough when it comes to conspiracy theories, I guess. I mean, it's how far is too far, and what's
really
right,
real.
and it's
and
that's really tricky.
In 10 years, is it going to come out that all that stuff was BS, and you've been eating cold meals for 10 years for nothing? Who knows?
And that's
I'm not saying you're wrong, obviously.
Yeah. And then Nate and I end up with 6 fingers on our hands, and you're over here laughing at us.
Well, that actually wouldn't be a bad thing. 6 fingers, that'd be kind of cool.
I don't know. What would you use? What would you use the 6th finger for?
I have no idea.
I'd be able to pull a lot more weight off the ground.
Exactly.
So I might be down for that.
Well, one of the things that that Paul Chek talked about was organic foods, and how there's been studies that have come out saying that there's no difference between organic and regular foods. But those studies were manipulated by companies such as Coca-Cola, General Mills, and that's just to name a few. He named a whole of them that really rule the food industry itself. But what they did was they bought land, and I hope I'm not butchering this, but they bought land, they planted food, they grew it, but they didn't grow it any differently than what they grew their other stuff. And then they did studies on it. They paid for the credentials to label it organic. And then they did studies on it, said, look, there's no different in this compared to that. Then they released those studies, but they messed with the results. They tampered the research.
Which is why
now people who are hearing that are like, oh, so I can go drink this Gatorade and it's totally fine.
Well, that's not,
you know what I mean?
How dare you?
Right, but it's I know, Gatorade.
I'll always drink.
But now I think that Kyle makes a really neat point, because that's one thing I've seen my mom do ever since I was a kid was it wasn't just, okay, this brand says that their stuff is organic. It's, okay, who owns that brand? Is that brand's parent company something like General Mills, something, I mean, I can't think of any other ones right now, but
one, for example, is Body Armor.
Yeah.
The drink that's come out as Body Armor is owned by Coca-Cola.
Yeah, Coca-Cola.
You're telling me that Coca-Cola is creating a healthy drink?
And Kobe Bryant,
chance.
and Kobe's going to endorse it. And
of course, and you get somebody like Kobe Bryant, who's been super successful, great athlete. Hey, drink this. Kids who are 8 years old start drinking it. By the time they're 16, they have diabetes.
Shouts to Kobe, not the diabetes.
What's crazy?
Way to clarify.
Is too, like, and not that you should run the risk, but if these things are true, which I'll take your word for it, obviously, but I don't have a counter for it. My parents, why? I mean, they're fine.
Just didn't know
And
any
that's-
better.
and
That's what's tough. It's
that's
like,
the part that's so
not
crazy.
that you want to risk it, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the same thing. Like my aunt she smoked since she was 18.
And
Now,
she's fine.
I wouldn't say fine, but she
But she doesn't have the things that she should have.
Yeah.
And that's what sucks about it, because there are few enough people out there in the world who get talked about it more than they should, that have the genetics to fight off the diseases that come with
Or just
things.
build up tolerances
Or just
to
build
it.
up tolerances to it somehow, some way.
Do you think that-
and they're fine. But then other people think that they can be like them. So, oh, I'm fine, I can do this.
Do you think that some of it has to do, this is really stretching it,
Let's
but
do it.
I'd be very curious.
Let's stretch it.
Do you think some of it has to do with the fact that if you look at it, our parents and their generation were just harder, like physically, mentally,
I'm gonna
this
take that one from
this
you.
generation?
I'm going to take that from you. I think it comes with the changing of the times as far as what work looked like.
Yeah.
People were craftsmen. People had trades. Now we
Did
don't have
things.
trades anymore.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
at desks. And there's nothing wrong with that. Our country would not function without people that are white collar, working at desks, putting in 40 hours a week.
I thought it was blue collar.
Blue collar is the manual labor.
That's like construction worker.
Well, that's
We're more of a
okay.
white collar. Hey, yeah.
well, I'd be working. You know?
I'd be working.
No, but I think that is a very good point. 'Cause
I mean, who knows?
100% that
The activity
they correlate
level
with each other.
The activity
Yeah.
level definitely counteracted.
That's true. The activity,
Definitely,
as far as
yeah.
movement and activity during it.
I mean, because in my wealth of experience as a landscape worker, for my multiple summers that I put in whenever I was a young man, whenever you're out there and you're working for multiple hours on end and you're moving and you're sweating and you're breathing heavy and you're really exerting yourself, your body's forced to burn that fuel, and that stuff can't. That stuff that's genetically modified and processed can't sit in your gut and putrefy in your gut and have all those toxins and stuff start running into your system and start toxifying everything. But I think the one thing that's come up to me is like as far as the how you combat all this stuff that's starting to come out on the food industry is that old maxim that Glassman's pushed for years. Shop on the perimeter of the store.
Yeah.
And I never really thought about that until I started like buying groceries.
Yeah.
I don't really go down aisles anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm spending time on the outside, not even consciously. That's just where the stuff that I need is.
And for what it's worth, not everyone has access to, say, their own farm or a farmer's market or whatever. But if you are at least making those conscious decisions to stay on the outside of the supermarket, like that's gonna be better than just shopping through the aisles and buying the crappy stuff you could buy.
Better off than not.
So that would be your first step. But ultimately, we've got to find a way to step away from the supermarket and being supplied with it. And that was one thing he said, because he was in the military. He said in the military they learned that in order to stop someone or to take them out, whatever, you want to cut off their food supply and their communication. And right now, 90% of everything that people buy comes from the supermarket. And you think about the amount of control that the government and the industries have over us. Imagine if the supermarkets, and he said this verbatim, imagine if the supermarkets, one day you go in there, they had nothing in them. Could you imagine the chaos? Because nobody has access to food unless you have your own farm.
My dad actually said that a couple nights ago about how they're looking to move and get a new house a little bit down the road, and he was like, as soon as we do that, we're putting a garden in.
Yeah.
He was like, because worst case scenario, what if you get to the store? Not that you get to the grocery store and there's no food, but what if you get to the grocery store and there's no outside of the grocery store? There's only aisles. So it's all crap food. So and then what do you do?
And once the food, and he talked about this as well, that the farm, there's only a certain percentage, a small percentage of the world left that's available for farming.
And that
the
goes
soil's getting degraded.
And that goes back to the thing that we talked about with trades, is that the way that the economy is shifted, that side of our economy, meaning what gets produced, is not as big because that trade is kind of becoming irrelevant. Because
if the soil if they keep it as toxic as it is and they don't make a change, the food industry is going to fall apart because no one's going to be able to eat it. And when that happens, if we haven't made the switch over to finding food from other sources, we're going to end up in the same inevitable boat that we're already in now. Like we need to switch beforehand. But not enough people out there in the world know about this and then are willing to make the change.
And the other half of them don't care.
And the other half don't care.
And then the majority of them, not to their fault, they're not informed.
Right.
Either they don't stay informed, or it's obviously not as public as we would like.
Yeah, and it's the age-old thing where it's like, it doesn't matter until it happens to you.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks it's not going to happen to me. It's not going to happen to me, and then it does, and you're like, "Oh, shoot, what do I do?"
And I think to tie a bow on this, I think Kyle and especially me can attest to this is whenever you start to cut things out of your diet and start to be a little bit more, be less ignorant to what's actually in the places where you're buying your food, the changes you'll feel in your body just not having to, your body's not working as hard to process your meals and it's actually getting the nutrients it needs. I think that the changes you'll see are absolutely paramount.
Yeah, absolutely. You can feel a major difference. So
absolutely. Well, thank you guys for tuning into a little short micro episode of the Chalk Talk Vitality Fitness. We'll see you on episode 13. Y'all have a good one now. Come back now, you hear?